Good evening, and thank you for attending. My name is Deborah Exner, and I am the moderator for this evening's candidate debate. Before we begin, please silence all phones and electronic devices. Additionally, please refrain from interruptions to the debate, as it's being recorded for on-demand viewing and post-captioning services. The Citizens Clean Elections Commission is the sponsor for this evening's event. The Clean Elections Act is a campaign finance reform and public education measure initiated by Arizona citizens and passed by voters in 1998. The Clean Elections Act was created to allow campaigns to be more issue-oriented and less negative. The system provides full funding for qualified candidates who participate voluntarily. The candidates agree to abide by the Clean Elections Act and rules, which include contribution and spending limits, foregoing special interest money, as well as participating in commission debates. The candidates invited to participate tonight are in contested general elections. Candidates in uncontested general elections are not included in the debate process. For tonight's debate, questions have been prepared by Clean Elections based on a voter survey, as well as questions that have been submitted by voters through the Clean Elections smartphone app. However, we encourage live audience questions first. If you have questions, please print them clearly on the note cards given to you as you entered and hold them up. If your question is for one particular candidate, please write the candidate's name on the card. Our volunteers will pick up the cards and deliver them to me. If you need additional cards, just raise your hand. We screen questions for clarity to eliminate duplications, speeches, or personal attacks on candidates. The debate is scheduled for 60 minutes, so we may not get to all audience questions, but we will do our best. There is an independent timer here in the front who will assist the candidates in answering the questions within their allotted time and will tell them when their time is up. Tonight's debate includes 2-minute opening statements, a lightning round, part 1 of the debate where all candidates answer the same question and have 2 minutes to respond. After both candidates have responded, the first responding candidate will get an additional 30 seconds. Part 2, each candidate answers a different audience question with 1 minute to respond. And then we will end with 2-minute closing statements. We ask that you remain polite to the candidates and give them a fair and uninterrupted hearing, no matter how strongly you may agree or disagree with anything that's being said. Tonight's participants are running for office in District 6. We have Ms. Nikki Bagley, a Democrat, running for state senator, and Mr. Alex Martinez, a Democrat, running for representative. Ms. Bagley, will you start with your opening remarks, please?
Sure. Hopefully the sound is good. My name is Nikki Bagley, and I am a second-generation Arizonan. I was born and raised in Prescott. I studied agriculture. I attended my community college, Yavapai Community College, which I am proud to be both a teacher and a director at. I instruct and run the wine growing program at Yavapai College's Southwest Wine Center. I'm also the former mayor of Jerome. So I'm an Arizona native, a former mayor, a farmer, a teacher, and a mother. And so I believe, this experience gives me qualities that I'm excited about employing at the state level. The reason why I'm running is in part for my son. He's 2 right now, and becoming a mother really helps you look towards the future. But really for him and the next generation. I believe that Arizona cannot just be a place for children to grow up. I believe Arizona has to be a place where children can grow up, have an exceptional education, build careers, enjoy life, and also raise families of their own. So I'm really looking to the next generation as a piece of my platform, and so I'll be focusing on restoring education funding, spurring economic development, and bringing infrastructure to our rural communities.
Thank you. Mr. Alex Martinez.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for the invitation to attend and to participate. I'm Alex Martinez. I'm running for the House of Representatives in LD6. I was born and raised in Arizona. Our family goes back quite a ways in Arizona, long before it was a territory. Our families came over to build missions and to establish the missions throughout Arizona. I'm a proud graduate of the public school education system. I'm a proud graduate of the university system. I attended the University of Arizona. I obtained a Bachelor of Science, a Master's, and my doctorate in Educational Administration. I had an exceptional educational background in terms of my public school experience. I had teachers who were just fabulous. A lot of my teachers, the males, were World War II veterans. The women were first-generation graduates from the University of Arizona, and they were also very inspirational for me. It's because of those folks, that my experience, that I became a teacher again and a principal, and I was a superintendent of 3 schools. I taught at Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I was a professor of naval science within our ROTC unit. I taught at the University of Arizona and U.S. Naval Academy. To me, the greatest institution in the United States is the institution of public schools. We are 48th in the nation. That really concerns me about Arizona, what has happened to our educational system. That's the main reason that I am running for this, is to restore funding and integrity for our schools, to have them looked upon as being cherished, not something that we look at and figure out how much can we cut from this to balance the budget.
Okay, to break the ice, we'll start with a quick lightning round. Please answer with one word. Mr. Martinez, Pandora or Spotify?
Oh, definitely Pandora.
Ms. Bagley, CNN, Fox News, or MSNBC?
How about the BBC?
Okay, great. At this time, we'll begin the portion of the debate where the candidates will answer the same audience questions, and they'll have 2 minutes to respond. We will begin with Ms. Bagley. If you were elected, what would be the first bill you would submit, and what would you consider your most important issue to address?
Well, that's interesting. They might be different. One bill that I know I already have language for it relates to agriculture. So I myself am a farmer. I run the wine growing program, so I grow wine grapes, but I'm also very supportive of other small farmers. My campaign chair is Eric Marcus. He runs the SETI, the Sustainable Economic Development Initiative, and he's worked with Yavapai County to overcome some barriers that the health department has had. So basically, farmers have been unable to get their produce into schools and restaurants. So he's written language that's being adopted in Yavapai County right now to make sure that small farmers can get produce where people will take advantage of it. And so these high-end restaurants and our kids really are depending on having access to this really healthy food. So that's one thing I would do immediately, is to write language for the state so that each county doesn't have to go through this process. But I would say my most important issue is restoring funding for our education system. As many of you know, well, gosh, when I went through the school system, in the 80s and 90s, we were 25th or 26th in the nation for education funding. And in 2016, if you didn't adjust, or in 2015, if you didn't adjust for inflation, we were very last in the nation, which bumped up to 48th or 49th. So we have a long way to go, and that's something I will work tirelessly to address.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez, the same question.
My response to that is that I would be working with educators, the Arizona Education Association, parents, universities to reestablish, and restore funding for public schools and for universities. As I mentioned before, our greatest institution is a public school system. It levels the field for everybody. It allows young children to reach the American dream. It doesn't make any difference where you're from, but it gives you that pathway. This is something that's been cherished for a long time. Our public schools are in dire need right now. We used to have well-rounded educational programs, which included music, science, and art. And for some reason now, those three subjects are not considered part of the core curriculum. But when we started off with public schools, they were part of the core curriculum. They're part of the way we addressed our culture, allowed children to express themselves, be creative, and to have an opportunity to let themselves grow more confident about themselves. But again, these are the first programs that are cut by our legislature. And we need these programs because, as we already know, that math and science are correlated by our brain. The same side of your brain you use the same side of your brain for mathematics, and there is a correlation between mathematics and art. I can't think of a parent who has a preschool child right now wondering, are we going to have kindergarten or are we going to lose it? Because there was, 4 years ago, there was an initiative to do away with kindergarten. That is the most important grade level that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bagley, your 30-second response.
Great. So to tag on to what Alex mentioned, I also am very supportive of the arts and sports, music. These are things that really keep kids in school. And they also, these programs, along with programs that support gifted and special education in our classes, give the support to teachers that really makes it a job that is doable. We're losing teachers right now in this state, and so all of those programs really contribute to supporting our teachers, and so I as well would support them, and all-day kindergarten.
Okay. Could you please tell us how you and your opponent, the incumbents, differ on issues important to Arizona? And this time we start with Mr. Martinez.
First of all, I was at a forum just a few weeks ago where the incumbents were there, and one of the questions was about education. And they were asked, why are we 48th in the nation? And their reply was, it's because we have to balance the budget. Well, there are ways of balancing the budget, but we shouldn't balance it on the backs of children. We need to look at the budget. We need to look at how we apply the tax credits that are given to business and how they affect our funding. We can't continue to do this because if we get past 48th, we're going to be at the very rock bottom, which we're pretty close at now. And this is where we have a big division. I would not sacrifice education to balance the budget. There's one more issue that I have that's very near and dear to me. I'm a 36-year veteran of the U.S. Navy Reserve, signed up when I was 17, left home 1965, and retired 7 years ago. And I retired as a Navy captain and started to volunteer for veterans programs. And when we were dealing with veterans, we realized there was an overabundance of our veterans, the people who are holding and defending our Constitution, who are in jail, and they're in private prisons. My initiative and their initiative is different. I am against private prisons. They are for private prisons. Private prisons don't make money when you don't have anybody in a cell, and yet we are putting veterans for minor crimes, misdemeanors, in jail, just for the folks who own the private prisons to make profits. I am totally against that. Those are the two areas where we differ.
Thank you. Ms. Bagley, same question.
There are many points which my opponent and I contrast on, but I would have to say supporting public education is a big one. My opponent owns and has founded a charter school, which I support charter schools, but it's been very clear in her voting record. She was rated with an 11% by the Arizona Education Association on her 2016 voting record for her support of public education. So that is a big contrast, and it's something that's important to me. Some other ones, though, that I'd like to talk about are supporting our public lands. My opponent proposed, sponsored a bill actually in 2012 to seize 25 million acres of federal land without a significant plan for how the state was going to deal with it. It was transferring it from the federal government to the state government. And while I understand sort of the ideology behind that concept, it's going to be really devastating to many in this state. In particular, I think ranchers, recreationists, sportsmen, all of these would have suffered, but none more than our forests. Right now, we have some exceptional federal and state support for restoring our forests, and I would really hate to see that interrupted by the seizure of our public lands.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez, you have 30 seconds to add on.
First of all, I totally agree with Nikki Bagley. Our state is trying to acquire federal lands, and they belong to the feds. They belong to everybody. We have national parks that belong to the federal government, but actually they belong to all of us. My biggest concern is, what will they do when they acquire them? It's been our experience in this state that any time the public lands are up for sale, developers will make a profit on it.
Thank you. Next question is for starting with Ms. Bagley. What one or two things would you do to expand efforts that close the education achievement gap, especially for children in poverty?
Well, it's interesting. I've heard a little bit of Governor Ducey's plan to improve achievement in education, and a part of his plan that I don't know too much about, really the details, but a bullet point was that resources were going to be allocated in schools that had really great scores, that were doing good. And so I think my addition to that I think could make a significant difference in education here is to look at the schools that make the most progress, maybe not necessarily the highest scores, but the highest improvements overall, and really nurture the progress that's being made in some of our more difficult school districts.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez.
The present administration's idea of doing this is to penalize schools who are socially economically deprived. We all know that it's not rocket science. The schools that don't perform are usually in the poorest neighborhoods. We don't help those schools by punishing them and taking funds away because they're doing poorly on test scores or because of low attendance. There are a lot of reasons for low attendance. Sometimes kids have to stay home to take care of siblings. We already know that there's a high poverty rate in our low-performing schools. But another thing is, do we need to put more money into preschool education? Right now we have a half-day kindergarten. Our state really ought to look at the initiative of having a full-day kindergarten. And let me tell you why, because the kindergarten is the first experience for children. This is the most important grade of all of their educational experience. And we know that by third grade, if children are not reading at grade level, the rest of their educational experience is not going to be very successful unless there's great intervention. And that doesn't always happen. We need to put more money into kindergarten, make it full day. And let me tell you what, Prescott has their city funding the other half day of half-day kindergarten. The state pays for half, and the city pays for half. That was the best investment we can make, and I'll tell you why, because it's an investment in human capital. Human capital will give you the best return for your buck, better than the stock market or any of the index funds, because these kids will have a good education and have the skills to get a good paying job and be working and paying and productive citizens for the rest of their working lives. So that's what we have to do.
Thank you. Ms. Bagley, your 30 seconds.
I agree with Alex in that early education is one of the most critical places that we can make investments. But additionally, to really address the achievement gap, I do think it's also important to look outside of our schools and make sure that we are providing support to families in these low-income neighborhoods, because that really is an important piece of student success.
Thank you. I'm going to combine two questions because one is just a yes or no answer. Do you live in this district? And then the second question is, do you feel that attending debates and forums like this is an important part of being a legislator? And we'll start with Mr. Martinez.
First question, yes. Second question, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Bagley?
Yes, I was born in Prescott, which is outside the district, but I right now live in a county island, so I live in between Jerome and Clarkdale. If you want my home address, you can look at the Secretary of State's page. And I do feel that coming to forums, being accountable to every constituent in this district is really critically important. As mayor, that was a nonpartisan position, and I honestly expect to respond and to represent every constituent in this district, whether they vote for me or not, because that's the way I feel about representation. And so I've just put about 20,000 miles on my car, making sure I visited almost every piece of this district so that I really understand what this diverse district is about, how things differ throughout the region. And I've really enjoyed myself, and I've really enjoyed coming and answering questions at forums like this.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez, your 30 seconds.
I totally agree. I live in Flagstaff, and I've worked in rural communities as a superintendent, and my concern is it costs more money to run schools in rural communities, and when you talk to the parents and find out what their needs are, they're different than what the urban communities are. And in terms of forums like this, these are very important because you really don't know where your legislator is coming from sometimes until they vote, and then it's too late because the vote has already been taken. We have laws that are enacted. We need to have legislators listen. They don't listen.
Thank you. Next question is, do you feel there's still a place for publicly funded charter schools? If so, what is the proper role? And we'll start with Ms. Bagley.
Yeah, it's a really important issue. So charter schools receiving public funding is about 25 years old, I believe, in practice. It's something that I believe there's a few policy gaps that need to be ironed out. I do believe at this point, from everything I know, that there is a place for them and there is a place for public funding. However, there's something that does concern me right now. If you own a for-profit charter school, there's no way to audit how you use your funding. So, public spending and being responsible with tax dollars is really, really important to me. And so I feel, our district schools are held to very high standards. They do a lot of reporting, and I think it's very fair to expect the same out of public charter schools. So that's one issue that I'll be moving forward on to work with. But I also know that there are some really great charter schools, and maybe kids don't fit in necessarily at the district school. So it's important that parents and children have those options and that they be available to everyone.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez.
There's an effort in Arizona to privatize education. I don't believe in private schools being funded with public money. There's an initiative that's coming out, that'll probably come out of the next legislature, and that is for charter schools and private schools to be able to borrow money. And guess what? You know who the guarantor is going to be of that? The state of Arizona, because that's the way the bill is going to be written. And if you don't think that doesn't get my ire up, we don't have public schools going out there and borrowing money and then having the ability to borrow money and spend it, and if they default, not have to pay for it. This is going to happen. There's a great initiative to do this. I believe in the public school system. I don't believe in privatization of schools. I don't believe in vouchers because people who are getting vouchers are the folks who really don't need them. And the folks who really would like to put their kids in private schools have a very difficult time getting their kids to school. But the other important part of this picture is if you privatize schools, you have lost total control of your school system. You don't have school boards that are elected by you and within the community. Those folks are accountable to you. You have an opening at every public school meeting, which is a call to the audience, which allows you as a parent to voice your concerns or to give them kudos. To me, public schools are losing this battle to privatization of schools. Every dollar we put in charter schools is a dollar taken away from public schools. But let me tell you the difference again between charter schools and public schools. Any child who walks through that door in a public school, whether you're an adaptive educational child who has special needs, handicaps, you're going to be accepted.
Thank you. Ms. Bagley, your 30-second response.
So Alex brought up many points that really frame well the conversation that public schools and charter schools are not on an even playing field right now. And there are several things which he mentioned that I think could be, looked at and addressed, including the issue of having public accountability, having an elected board. I do think there is some abuse of both national and state funding in order to develop charter schools, and the properties then are in the hands of the board if a school should close, and that doesn't seem right to me, that state funds are basically moving into private hands if a school closes.
Thank you. Next question is, what is your position on uranium mining in the Grand Canyon? Mr. Martinez?
Thank you. This has been one of my pet peeves for a long time. I worked on the Navajo Reservation. Let me tell you about what uranium mining does. It kills people. Why? Because the tailings from uranium mines that were pre-World War II, post-World War II, and are currently in mining have issues because those radioactive materials will get into our water source. Once you get that into your water source, you cannot remove it. It's there for a long time. Water is a precious commodity. We can't afford to lose it. And if we allow more uranium mining, we're going to have more pollution. The person or the company who owned the uranium mine, if it doesn't have success with that mine, they walk away. And guess who's stuck with the problem of cleaning it up? You, the taxpayer. And guess what? As our water supply dwindles, the price of water is going to go up, and it's going to be rationed. And to me, this is a reality, and we need to wake people up in the state of Arizona to this. So I am totally against uranium mining. The Grand Canyon is one of the most famous attractions in the world. We have people who come from all over the world to see it. We also have a great water source from the Colorado River. If you have that polluted, our folks down the river who use that water to irrigate are going to be using contaminated water. The folks down the river who get their water from the Colorado River will be drinking contaminated water, or will not be drinking that water, will be purchasing more expensive water that's going to be either trucked in or piped into their communities. So I am totally against uranium mining.
Thank you. Ms. Bagley, same question.
The issue of uranium mining in the Grand Canyon could have been on my list of one of the contrasts between me and my opponent. So my opponent has fervently supported this effort, while I very much support the 20-year moratorium on uranium mining currently. Being sort of from a mining town of Jerome, I see that the booms and bust cycles of the mining industry, they're very whimsical, and it's not an economy and an industry that you can necessarily bring sustainability about with. And so I think that the risks so far outweigh the economic impacts that you would see from this effort. I very much oppose it for many of the same reasons that Alex mentioned. Uranium, once it's exposed to oxygen, oxidates, becomes very leachable. It's fairly stable within the rock itself, but once it's exposed to oxygen, it's going to easily find its way into the springs that you see at the bottom of the Grand Canyon that native cultures are subsisting on, and also directly into the Colorado River water. So I very much support the federal efforts that are going on to put a permanent stop to these, but there are many, many mines there now, and many, many claims that will be surfacing, and so it's something we have to act on now.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez, your 30 seconds.
We need to stop it. There is no debate about it. We don't have time for debate. Once that uranium is oxidized and it gets into our water sources, it's gone. You can't replenish that water source. We have to act now. What we're doing in the legislature is studying. Well, it's called the paralysis of analysis. We need to act, and we need people elected who will be bold enough to move forward with this and take care of our natural resources.
Thank you. What legislative committees will you serve on to advance our issues? Ms. Bagley.
Well, natural resources and education seem like two ones that would be very fitted for me. As a teacher, I really do see so many of the impacts that a quality education system can have in this state, including an economic one. So I would really look forward to framing investments in education and how they move our state forward. I think that's something that I could do very well. As a farmer and a native of Arizona, I really do believe that I would be very fitting on the Natural Resources Committee as well. And many others I'd love to do appropriations too. That's really where the money hits the road. And so that would be an exciting one I would hope to go for as well.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez, same question.
My expertise is in education. I would want to be on the Educational Committee. Not just because of appropriations, but we need to stop looking at just maintaining. We need to be able to develop programs in the public school system. We have, in Phoenix, one of the most exceptional programs I've ever seen for technology. It's called the East Valley Institute of Technology. Within that school, they have adapted the needs of the business community to the skills that children or high school students receive. So when they complete that program, they have job skills. They can go out and earn a living wage that pays a job that pays a living wage, plus also benefits. But when they get out of school, they're ready to go to work. And these are the jobs that our business community needs. The other area, or the other committee I would like to serve on, would be economic development. Because education and economic development go hand in hand. We have high-tech companies. We have Intel. We have Honeywell. Now, they're not going to develop their companies in Arizona unless they have the job force. Our school districts want to meet the job needs and provide the skills for our children, so when they do leave high school, they can go to work. But our companies, again, need to have kids who are literate. They need to have children who can work with other folks. One of the issues that we have is we don't really teach the type of skills that our business community needs. I'm reiterating this because it's so important, because nobody ever asks the community business people, what would you like to have us teach in the classroom?
Thank you. Ms. Bagley, your 30 seconds.
So as far as appropriations go, I hear some of my Democratic representatives and senators lament that there's not much they can do in such an extreme partisan situation at our legislature. So I wanted to mention that mine is one of two races that could bring our state into a tie in the state Senate. And that would actually give us significant leveraging power in discussions with the state budget to see some significant investments in education. So that's one of the most important reasons why I'm running.
Thank you. At this time, we'll move on to part 2 of the debate, where I'll ask a different question of each candidate, and you'll have 1 minute to respond. And you may still continue to submit questions and direct them to specific candidates. First question is for Mr. Martinez. What skills have you learned as an administrator that you feel will help you be an effective legislator?
The skills that I've learned is to be a physical conservative. And some folks are saying, what does that mean? That means you take care of tax dollars and you take care of the taxpayers' money. You don't waste it. You're very careful. You evaluate the way you're spending your money and making sure that your objectives are met, or you change your objectives or how you implement programs so you don't waste money. 30 seconds, thank you. As I said, I am very cognizant of taking care of public money because we don't have enough of it, and it's not fair to ask our taxpayers to increase taxes or just to pay their taxes without them getting their bang for their buck.
Thank you. Ms. Bagley, an audience member writes, Arizona is rated 48th in spending in education. What will you do to give education more funding?
Yeah, well, I'll say that I'm not categorically opposed to raising taxes, but it is going to be extremely difficult to do that in this state. And so my focus is on improving economic development so that we can create additional revenue streams and focus them towards education. And, it's something that can happen. I've been a part of seeing the wine industry grow. In the Verde Valley, we wouldn't have a wine industry if it weren't for one piece of legislation. That industry now produces $50 million worth of an economic impact. So Arizona has opportunities if the legislature is willing to be responsive, support small businesses, emerging industries, and I want to be a part of that solution. I'd also make sure I'd support the effort to renew the sales tax that currently goes towards education.
Mr. Martinez, what would you do to, why would an environmentalist want to vote for you? What would you do? How will you handle those things?
First of all, I'm going to tell you, I'm a fly fisherman, so I'm very, very aware of the environment because of the quality of water. I've been an environmentalist since I was a small kid because we knew at that time, we were Boy Scouts or Cub Scouts, what the forests and the deserts and the water meant to us. We're all stewards of our public lands and our private lands. Because if once we lose them, we're not going to gain them back again. Again, it's like water. Once we destroy water, we're not going to get it back unless there's an increase in rainfall. And with climate change, that's not going to happen. We have to clear our forests. We have to manage our forests better in order to preserve them. Those are my initiatives. Those are my feelings. That's been my lifelong philosophy.
Thank you. Ms. Bagley, how does your experience as a teacher at a community college prepare you to help solve Arizona's education crisis?
Yeah, so in 2008, the year I moved to the Verde Valley and began working in the wine industry, Yavapai Community College lost 80% of our state funding, and it hasn't been restored. So basically, we have 1% of our funding now comes from the state. And it's been extremely difficult to make ends meet. At the college level, we've had to raise property taxes, we've had to raise tuition, we've had to work diligently to create public-private partnerships to make sure that our education is extremely relevant to industries and that we can get financial support from industries that deeply desire that workforce development. And so I know that there's more we can do to make sure that the business community feels invested in education. But it's also terribly important that we just restore some basic funding and move in that direction.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez, what's your favorite spot here in Flagstaff?
My favorite spot is looking north, which means the mountains and the forest.
Thank you. Ms. Bagley, what is your own personal stake in this election?
Unseating my opponent would be amazing. It's a good question because I have a 20-month-old and I love my job, and so if you look at my personal life, it's really not the best time for me to run for office. But I think the stakes are so high, and especially having a stake and a voice in the conversation when it comes to our state budget, it means a lot to the state, and I love my state, so it means a lot to me.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez, what is your opinion about the 12 months limit for TANF?
Could you qualify TANF for me?
I can.
Okay, thank you. I'm all in favor of it. First of all, we want to make sure we're taking care of families, but there's no free lunch. And when we provide that assistance and we help them gain the skills they need or to get back on track again, then we've really made a change. We don't want people to stay in assistance all their lives. We want them to move off, but sometimes folks need to have a break. They need a bridge. They need help. They need a little assistance. And I'm all in favor of that because at any time in our lives, we all need some type of assistance, and I think we could do that. I have no problem with that. That's a very good investment of public money. And we need to look also to our nonprofits, supporting our nonprofits, so they can do a better job at what they're already doing. I think our nonprofits do an excellent job, and I would rather see support going into the nonprofits to help them do that job than the government taking it all on.
Thank you. Ms. Bagley, do you think Governor Ducey's Water Augmentation Council should consider the worth of the environment in determining changes to Arizona water law?
The short answer would be yes. Water is really important to Arizona. It's really important to our future. It's important for people who want to develop here. It's important for everybody to have water security for both economic development and, personal feeling that doom isn't impending. And so it's really, we have to be careful about our water policies and how we craft them. And I absolutely support efforts to make comprehensive water policies a part of Arizona. I see that there are some deeper things we have to look at. We absolutely have to streamline, I guess, pun intended, the Gila River stream adjudication process. This has been going on for over 40 years, and we need to solidify the water rights that we have existing right now so that we can go on to make a plan for our future. Without that existing knowledge, it's very difficult to make plans. So that's something that's really important to the Verde River in particular, and then groundwater management for the rest of the state.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez, do you think the government should be able to regulate campaign spending, and if so, how?
I don't believe government, by legislation, should be involved in this. We have a very serious issue in this country, and the issue is dark money. The dark money bill has changed the whole complex of what government should be doing for people. What it's doing is providing funds to candidates who are being funded by private industry, various interests. And if you go to Washington, D.C., there's a place called K Street, and that's where all the big bucks are spent on lobbying. I don't believe in lobbyists. I don't think it's a good idea the government ought to be enacting laws. Bill 1516. To me, I just think we ought to be calling that the dark money bill. I'm very much against the government getting involved with things like this.
Thank you. Ms. Bagley, where do you stand on state-sponsored universal preschool? Would this be a good move for Arizona?
Well, I haven't looked at the numbers per se, but in general, I absolutely see the need and the importance of investing in early education. So this would fall in line with my priorities pretty easily. It's clear that, by third grade, we need to have achieved some very significant goals in students, and that early education really is the place to get us there.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez, do you support increases in minimum wage? And if so, why?
That's a real complex question because minimum wage across the state affects different businesses. We also have nonprofits. We have schools. Schools are pretty limited as to what they can pay. For instance, if you have instructional aides who are making under minimum wage and all of a sudden we increase that minimum wage, then that's going to limit the number of people we can have working in the classroom. And also in the minimum wage, there's been some initiatives saying that, well, maybe young people should not qualify for the increases in minimum wage. And I say, no, if you do have an increase in minimum wage, it should be for everybody. I think we need to do it gradually. To answer your question, I do believe in increasing the minimum wage, but we have to do it in increments because if we don't, there are going to be some businesses and nonprofits and public institutions that are going to suffer because of this. So we have to be very careful in how we do it.
Thank you. Ms. Bagley, would you support vouchers for all students?
No. So the voucher program really was intended at targeting a fairly specific and limited population within our student universe, and to give vouchers to every student, I believe, would greatly impair the funding structure for our public schools, to the point that I believe it would be a huge detriment to our state.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez, can Arizona afford continued tax cuts?
No, we can't. It's impacted everything. It's impacted education. It's impacted our public safety, police officers, first response, our roads. We can't support big business. We don't exist to give cuts just to big business. So I don't believe we can afford tax cuts. I think there ought to be incentives for business, but I don't believe we've got to continue giving big business tax cuts.
Thank you. Ms. Bagley, if you could ask your opponent one question about her record, what would it be?
I would ask her where she was coming from when she sponsored a bill that would have funded a state a militia on the border without police training.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez, an audience member writes, Proposition 301 is set to expire in 2020. It represents up to 10% of teachers' salaries. If we lose that, it could result in more teacher attrition. If elected, what will you do to make sure Proposition 301 is renewed or replaced?
Well, we have to initiate new legislation to increase the funding, and we definitely have to do it. Now, again, looking at rural schools and looking at urban schools, we have a real difficult time right now in retaining folks who are qualified teachers. We want to retain the best. 301 helped us enormously. I don't want to have another initiative that'll be like a sunshine law that means that after 5 years we're going to lose the funding. We need to have funding that's going to be consistent and throughout a long time span, so that public schools and universities can plan and grow programs. So definitely, yes, 301 is great, but we need to have one that's going to. We need federal funding, but our state funding can help by being consistent and growing, and cutting out tax cuts that cause us to balance the budget on the backs of education.
Thank you. Ms. Bagley, what is your opinion regarding public land?
Well, I discussed it a little bit earlier, but I absolutely would support us maintaining our federal public lands as they are right now. I understand that ranchers and many other people have significant issues with dealing with federal agencies, but the concept that's being explored right now in places like Nevada and Utah, really I don't believe have a place in Arizona. And Utah's been the one to develop this the most. They've actually spent money to do research both on the legalities of if they would be able to seize federal land, and also how it would pencil out. And there was only one scenario in which it penciled out for the state, which involved opening up Escalante National Monument for strip coal mining. So I don't believe that there's a path forward for Arizona for it to make fiscal sense in this state, along with all of the other negatives that I mentioned earlier.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez, how will you work with tribal communities and partners to address health equity issues like mental health supports and suicide prevention?
We look at nonprofits and we look at community agencies like county agencies and municipalities within the Navajo Nation and the Hopi Nation and all of our Native American tribal areas. Again, it's very difficult to provide services in some of the rural areas because of the locality of where the constituents live. We need to work closely with the federal government, the state government and the local governments to make sure there's no duplication of efforts, that we're all working in the same initiative, and to be able to support all of those initiatives with the same focus of what we're doing, so we don't not overspend, but waste money.
Thank you. Ms. Bagley, what will you do to increase the well-being of children from pregnancy to 5 years old so that they'll be ready for school?
Well, being a new mother myself, I can think of lots of different things. One just sort of an interesting thing about me is that I had my baby at home, and I thought that was an amazing experience to be able to have a midwife and choose the way that my child was born. So that's one thing for talking from birth to 5, literally. But I would say early reading programs. I think reading to young children is so important in their mental development, and yet because they can't actually literally read, sometimes it's something that's overlooked. I would look at supporting library and community programs and make sure that young parents know that reading to their children is something that can significantly increase their success in life.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez, what rights do you believe corporations should have?
Corporations should have the right to operate a business as long as it's within the parameters of our state, federal laws, and local municipalities. They have the right to build a product, market their product. They also have a right to earn a profit. But I don't think they have a right to be subsidized with public money to earn a bigger profit. We have to talk about rights of the local taxpayer. They also have rights, and it shouldn't be subsidizing a for-profit business. Either you make it or you don't, because it's a free market.
Thank you. Ms. Bagley, do you support the Second Amendment?
Yes, I do. I myself am a gun owner. I've, grew up in rural Arizona, and so guns have been a part of my family and my culture, and so it is something that is important to me. I realize that there's many strides we need to make in this state to improve public safety, to reduce the number of violent crimes, and I do believe there's some very straightforward efforts we can make to address those without even infringing on the Second Amendment rights. My husband's a life member of the NRA, but I do believe this puts me in a unique position to make progress on some important issues, one of which I thought of only because my husband's in law enforcement. He works for Game and Fish, and so he goes out and he sees people with guns all of the time. He can't go back to his truck and reliably look a person up and see if they have a non-possessed status, see if they're not supposed to have a gun. So integrating databases on a state and national level would significantly reduce the amount of guns in violent criminals' hands.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez, last question. What is your position on requiring police officers to wear body cameras?
As a public servant for most of my life, professional life, I always believed in accountability. I think it's good for the police officers, and it's also good for the common citizen. More and more municipalities are adopting this. It's an expensive venture, but again, it's for accountability. It ensures that our law enforcement officials are covered and protected by their actions, whatever they're trying to, let's say, apprehend a criminal. Well, it shows exactly what went on, but it also protects the rights of the citizens in case there's inappropriate behavior by law enforcement. So yeah, it's accountability, and I'm all for it.
Thank you. Ms. Bagley, what is your position toward the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, commonly referred to as Obamacare?
Sure. At first, when this was implemented, I honestly had many criticisms of how this program was implemented, but as years have gone by, I've certainly realized that I'm firmly opposed to any attempts to repeal this act in the state. I was very relieved that our former governor, Jan Brewer, was willing to support its existence, and that was mostly a practical decision because rural hospitals really were depending on those federal dollars. And so no matter if you support the premise of that bill, practically on the ground, it was absolutely the right move to continue to support that effort in Arizona.
Thank you. And now we are at our closing statements. Mr. Martinez, would you begin?
Right. I can tell you what I'm not for. I'm not for introducing legislation that will allow weapons in schools. I'm not for cutting preschool education. I'm not for dark money that comes from out of state telling us, our citizens of Arizona, what we need. I am also very big on local control, which really astounds me because the opposing party had a platform of local control. Now they want to centralize and take away local control from our municipalities and our school districts. Those are the things that I would not be for. I am for local control. I am for safe schools. I'm for safe water, and also our veterans' rights, and just doing away with private prisons.
Thank you. Ms. Bagley.
I would like to thank the Clean Elections Commission for hosting this event tonight. It's been really enjoyable, and I just want to say that I really look forward to serving this state as the next state senator. I believe in Arizona we've gone through periods of good policy making, and I'd like to see the state return to that. I'm a graduate of the Flynn Brown Civic Leadership Academy, which was a bipartisan academy to look at the issues on the ground in the state. I believe that our legislature has become extremely partisan, and I believe it's been to the detriment of Arizona. And so if I am elected, and if we do achieve that 15-15 tie in the Senate, I will be dedicated to working across the aisle and making sure that the issues that are most important to Arizonans get addressed. Because the reality is, once you get off the hot button issues, a lot of the bills that go forward are passed unanimously. This job really boils down to advocacy, and I'll be really willing to work with everybody that I can to make sure that everyone's priorities are being considered in our state legislature. So I really appreciate your time tonight, and you can look at my website if you have more questions. It's nikkiforazsenate.com. It's nikkiforazsenate.com.
Thank you. We thank you so much for participating in our forum this evening. And to our audience members, we thank all of you who took the time to come and inform yourselves before voting. We encourage you to visit www.azcleanelections.gov, where you can find information on upcoming elections, download the Clean Elections app, and learn about the candidates running for office. A link to the video of this debate, as well as other Clean Elections debates, will be posted there within 72 hours of a scheduled debate. Please fill out the debate evaluation forms you were given as you entered and return it to one of our volunteers. Your feedback is important to the Commission and will help improve future debates. Thank you all for coming tonight, and you're welcome to stay and speak directly with the candidates.